Peter, are you ready to start this podcast? Peter? Huh. Maybe there's something wrong with my computer. Oh my God. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready yet. Oh, God.
See, this is why doing it live is better.
Oh, shit. Hello, and welcome to the Interstate Gamers Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, a.k.a. K-Slugs.
My name is Peter, a.k.a. Jack Skellington. It's almost Halloween, y'all.
Yeah, and we are back, better than ever, with a brand new episode on not exactly Halloween, but for Halloween. But before we get into the game, we have a couple of announcements to get through. The first one being, I got a new mic, so I sound much better than previously. As you guys might have heard, some of our episodes were like, what's going on with K-Slugs? Is he a robot? Like, you know, what's going on there? So, I bought a new mic cable, which was really the problem, but I thought, hey, why not get a new mic in the process? Shout outs to your friend Arn or Aaron from the Yeasty Boys. Go check out their podcast if you haven't already, but I'm sure you probably have. Now you got some higher quality and sonorous sounds coming from me.
The sonorous sounds of K-Slugs are not to be missed by anybody, and that's the main purpose of our show, really, is to bring the sonorous sounds to the people. The second purpose of our show is to bring t-shirts to the people. We are doing a t-shirt giveaway on Twitter. We hit 50 followers pretty recently. Mm-hmm. And Kev, you actually made an announcement about this on Twitter a little while ago, but that was a pre-announcement, which you know I love very much. This is the real announcement. We are giving away a free t-shirt of your choice, you being the winner. So the way you enter the contest is that on Monday, Kevin will make a tweet announcing the official beginning of the giveaway. And everyone will have until Friday at noon Central Time to retweet and follow the podcast. And everyone who is a follower and has also retweeted that tweet by that time will be in a random drawing to win. And if you win the drawing, then we will message you, and of course we'll announce it publicly if you want that, if you want to be recognized for your efforts. And we will get in touch with you probably via Twitter DM, and you will be able to tell us what shirt you want, the color, size, all that stuff. And also, if you want, you can tell us your shipping address, and so we can just order it for you, and we won't have to deal with like people paying people back or anything like that. Just keep it simple. We can ship the shirt straight to you. You can wear it with pride, show off your IG love to everyone you know, and spread the word like we know you guys love to do. And so Kevin will make that tweet on Monday. Mm-hmm. And we'll also include the details in that tweet so you don't have to necessarily remember them from this podcast. But we're excited to do this. We are excited to have 50 followers, and we're also excited to have fun merch to give away. That's something that we had been working towards for a while. And now we got it. Yeah, I'm excited for the giveaway as well. I can't wait to see the smiling faces. Well, we may not ever see the smiling faces, but potentially the smiling faces of the lucky winner. I can't wait until I rig the contest and win another shirt.
Yeah, I know, right? Or anybody who with a nice donation incentive. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that's exciting. Peter, guess what?
What's that?
We have a question from one of our avid fans, and we know him well, Mr. Z-Link himself, a.k.a. Chris.
Oh shit, what up?
He asked us, if you could add one or two characters from any franchise to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, who would it be, and what would their moveset be like?
If you had asked me this question like a year ago, I would have had a bunch of good answers for you. But now with Ultimate just having everyone under the sun, I feel like I just don't know who I want anymore. This isn't the best answer, I don't think, but as you know, I'm a fan of the Custom Robo game for the GameCube. And I think a Custom Robo would actually have a decent amount of potential in Smash Brothers. They are very agile, and they have either multiple jumps or like air dashes, which could function sort of like air dodges. And they're entirely projectile based for the most part in their own game. They do have like one melee attack, but I think it'd be cool to have a projectile heavy character that's kind of good at like darting around the screen, maybe in multiple different directions, and kind of sticking to range combat. I think that might be interesting.
Yeah, kind of like, well, I guess Young Link kind of works on that principle, but he's just, yeah, but he doesn't slide. He just kind of jumps. I would like to see, well, I think it's pretty obvious for most people that know me, Banjo-Kazooie, and I don't want to delve too much into why I want that or the plausibility of that. But some other characters I'd like to see are Boo or Shy Guy or Waddle Dee. I feel like some of those like minions are very underrepresented in Smash Bros. Whereas we have like Bayonetta and Snake. Like, I was like, why are we going there first before we go with like Boo or Shy Guy or something like that?
I think for the minions, as you call them, I think maybe moveset pool might be a factor, because a lot of those enemies, as far as I'm aware, they don't have necessarily the most like numerous or distinct attacks. They just kind of damage you by like being there most of the time. So I mean, they could definitely do it. Like, I mean, they made a whole moveset for Duck Hunt Dog, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So there's certainly they could certainly do it, but I can kind of see the other side where they would choose fighters that maybe are less storied in Nintendo's history, but have like more obvious or exciting movesets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also think Skull Kid would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. And that's one that people have been wanting for a long time as well.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially since everybody has like that hero villain vibe going on.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that answer.
Yeah. But anyway, Peter, what game are we talking about today? Or why don't we treat our fans to some almost meat and potatoes?
Meat and potatoes. These are going to be very spooky. Meat and potatoes. This is our Halloween-ish episode. We did play a extraordinarily frightening, scary game for you guys. I was making a mess of myself the whole time. It was just that scary. This game is a game that a lot of people listening probably know and love. It is none other than Luigi's Mansion.
I love that theme.
We're probably going to be doing more of that in the audio section when we get to it. But yeah, Luigi's Mansion. This is a GameCube classic, a certified player's choice game, which means it shipped more than however many units. Came out in 2001 as a launch title for the GameCube, which I had actually forgotten. I think I knew that at some point, but I was doing my research, and it was a launch title. So very much a pace setter for the early days of the GameCube. I know a lot of people who have enjoyed this game, but I'd never played this game. I barely even knew what the game was until I played it. How about you, Kev? Did you like have experiences with this game growing up or at any time?
No, I've never played this game before, but I do remember seeing commercials of it on TV and them really driving home the point that this is like Luigi's game. Luigi finally getting a game, and he's like, you'd see in the commercials he like suck up ghosts, or like the object is to save your brother Mario.
Yeah.
And so I was really eager to delve into it and play it. I think before I was just kind of very meh about it, but ever since like playing all these games and like putting this one into the mix, I was very excited to give it a try. So I can't wait to give everyone my thoughts.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you want to get right into the spooky, scary meat and potatoes?
Let's do it.
Meat and potato.
Meat and potatoes.
Not exactly scary, but we'll roll with it. So I will give the I'll let you start after I give the basic premise. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Cool. So as Kevin mentioned when he was talking about the commercial for this game, you do play as Luigi, working your way through the titular mansion, sucking up ghosts in a vacuum. You have to suck up all these ghosts and boos especially, which are kind of like special villains in this game, in order to rescue Mario, who has been trapped by King Boo himself, into a painting. So during your quest to search for all these boos and vacuum them and eventually make your way to King Boo, you also encounter other ghosts who are like people who are residents of the mansion, I suppose. It's never made entirely clear. Well, I guess it is, because some of the ghosts are like in their bedroom, so I guess it is pretty clear that they are residents of the mansion. But yeah, that's kind of the basic premise. Kevin, do you want to start with your thoughts on the gameplay?
Yeah, I think a perfect place to start is with kind of the elephant in the room, so to speak, the controls. At least what I think is the elephant in the room. It could not be an elephant. It could end up being like a very small mouse. But I thought the controls of this game were kind of weird, especially in regards to the C-stick and the flashlight. I just, it wasn't very smooth for me. I don't know why I had so much trouble with it, but yeah, I don't know. Just moving the C-stick up and down, the controls were inverted. And so you couldn't change that option, at least to my knowledge, or there wasn't any real good place for me to see that you could change that. So that was kind of a bummer. I often found myself like struggling at times to turn the flashlight the right way and at the right time to catch a ghost. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of had a lot of trouble with that. What about you?
I agree with the C-stick part, especially. I'm fine with the inverted controls. I'm used to those. But I just think the problem was like, it's kind of weird to know exactly where the flashlight is aiming because it is kind of because it is like a broad thing, you know? And just the perspective of the game is kind of like that 3/4 top down view. It's like it's almost straight on rather, not top down, but a little bit angled from the top so you can kind of see, you know, what's going on. I think the camera angle definitely has a lot to do with why the controls are weird.
Yeah.
And there are the two options. There's the sidestep mode and the regular mode. I used regular the whole time. I kind of dabbled with sidestep, but I didn't feel like it was doing all that much for me. And basically that just determines whether your C-stick movement is like relative to Luigi or not. That's kind of what it changes. But I certainly found the controls weird. And I found that some of the mechanics that they integrated into the controls were also kind of weird. The one that stuck out to me the most was when you're vacuuming a ghost. And if essentially you reel them in like a fish by pressing both of your joysticks away from them repeatedly, kind of like mashing in a direction, if you will. And I found that to be really tedious to do over the span of the game. And I also found it not rewarding because oftentimes the ghosts, the ones that had higher HP, they would escape anyway, like while I was doing that well. And I don't know if it's random or scripted or maybe I was messing up, but it didn't feel like I was. And so for me to be like doing this pretty repetitive and kind of tiring motion while reeling in a ghost, only for the ghost to escape anyway, was just kind of like, you know, like really?
Yeah. I watched a couple speed runs of it and they seem to have the technique down pretty, like I think there is like a technique to it. So that's kind of cool that there is like a better way to do it, I guess. But I actually really found that the mechanic of reeling them in really fun. Like that part was actually kind of fun for me, and that it was kind of like you're pulling against them to try to pull them in. Like there's some resistance and you're not just holding a button. I'm glad they did it that way instead of just the button and then you chasing them around, because I think that would have been kind of boring.
I think that my main problem lies in the fact that it benefits you to like keep flicking the stick backwards. I think if you can just hold the sticks backwards and it works, but it doesn't work as fast. But I think that if they had just kept it to where you could hold the sticks and like that would be the best option, I think that would have been better because the ghosts still move around erratically and you still have to like track their movement. So there's still a challenge to it. It's just that I think they kind of went overboard with like making it more challenging with that repeated flicking motion.
Yeah, there's as most people already know, there's a Luigi's Mansion 2. So I'm actually really excited to play that game in the future. I kind of want to see what they did with the mechanics there. I probably should have done some research and see if there's any difference there, and probably if there's any feedback from other people about the controls. But I found, like the flashlight, I found really annoying, and I think you did too. But I think we have a little bit of a difference on like reeling in the ghost, which is fine. I mean, it's just different perspective there. But yeah, I found it decently fun. I mean, it's not like, oh, this is the most amazing game ever when I'm reeling in a ghost, but it was kind of fun. So, yeah. I also, let's see, I like the creative puzzles that were in the game.
Yeah.
Kind of like searching the mansion and kind of like figuring out what to do. It was never, I mean, sometimes it got kind of stale, but you kind of knew, like, it never told you where to go, but you had a pretty strong idea of where to be to find out how to get to the next part. And so I thought that was really fun.
Well, it does tell you where to go because whenever you get a key, your map will tell you what door the key unlocks.
But if you don't have a key, I guess is what I mean. Like if you're searching for a key, there are some instances where you have to just go in a room. And I finally eventually figured out the map and how the map works and its color scheme. I'm like, oh, this means I haven't been here and I should probably go here.
Yeah, the map is certainly an important mechanic that's worth talking about and works really well, I found. It's pretty easy to pull up and check around and see where you are. And as I said, the game does help you by telling you what key or what door each key unlocks. But as you said, until you get that key, you are kind of left to your own devices. Usually, it's pretty easy to figure out because like there will be a room that you haven't been in or that you haven't cleared all the ghosts from. And like it should be fairly clear that that's the room for you to get your key from. Otherwise, it was pretty fun using the Game Boy Horror, as they called it, instead of the Game Boy Color. That was definitely a fun touch. This game has a good sense of humor, and that's something that I will want to talk about in content for sure. There's also the first-person scanning mechanic where you can switch to Luigi's eyes and actually see like every surface of the mansion instead of looking through like the cutout like you usually do. And you can use that first-person scanner to... The main purpose is to scan some of the portrait ghosts. They're ghosts that are kind of like mini bosses in a way. Mm-hmm. And when you scan them, they will give you a subtle hint as to what their weakness is. And that's a pretty fun little mechanic. And it's definitely a good way to like admire some of the detail in the mansion when you get to switch to first person mode like that. And it also gets into the puzzle element that you mentioned earlier about having to figure out how to capture these ghosts because they don't just tell you straight up. And each ghost normally has a pretty different way to make it weak to catch it. And so that's something that I think the gameplay benefits from as well.
Yeah, and they all have different personalities, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they did a good job with that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And also you could use the, whatever that thing is called. Yeah, where you're using the Game Boy Horror, like in the first person mode. Whatever that's called. You can use that to like scan like he's not just ghosts, but like random areas that like you can get sucked in a hole through. It's kind of weird, but yeah, that's a thing.
I really like the way that you can scan a mirror and then it'll like kind of you back to the beginning. That's super useful.
Yeah, it really is. I wish there were more mirrors, honestly.
I wish there were mirrors that would teleport you to other mirrors instead of just taking you back to the front. Because one big problem I had with this game is that Luigi is just slow, which makes sense because like he's supposed to be the scaredy cat in the mansion. I get it, but his slow movement speed could sometimes just feel unfair because there are some enemies that will like rush you to attack you, and it might just be me not being good, but sometimes it really does feel like there's nothing I can do, and like I was just gonna get hit no matter what. Yeah, because I'm slow. I'm like, this kind of sucks. But my bigger problem though with the movement speed is that there's a lot of backtracking involved, like a lot throughout the mansion. Like you'll have to go upstairs and then go all the way downstairs and then go back upstairs again. And there's no real quick way to get around. Like you just have to walk your way through all the hallways and staircases back and forth. And I got really tired of that if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that did get pretty annoying sometimes. Going from like level to level, there was always a set way that you had to go. So like, let's say I had to go to the first floor, so I had to teleport back, meaning I had to go through all the way to the back of the house just to go up to the second floor, and all the way back to the front of the house to go to the third. So it was kind of a thing like that. It was kind of annoying, especially like seeing the same ghost over and over again try to hit you with the same stuff. I eventually just figured out I could just run past them.
Yeah, I was glad that I figured that out when I did, because otherwise I would have just wasted so much time. And what's annoying is that some of the ghosts, like some of the ceiling ghosts that come down and like clap in your face, I don't think they can even hurt you unless you've like literally run into them. So it's like there's no point once they're behind you, just keep going.
Yeah, they can only get you when like you're like trying to dodge something else, and then they'll stop you mid-run, and then the other ghost will keep moving, and you'll get hit. So it's kind of annoying in that sense. And so I kind of agree on that aspect. But I still found the game overall decently fun to play. It was very fun to try to capture the ghosts, capture the boos. Even though the boos had a different kind of mechanic in the way that you captured them, that I really liked the traditional way of like pulling against them. But the boos, you just followed around, and they would sometimes run into you when you're like trying to keep your flashlight on them. or not flashlight, your vacuum. So I don't know. That was kind of weird, but I did enjoy catching all of the boos and hunting them down.
Yeah, the boos could go from room to room if you didn't suck them up quickly enough. So some of the ones that had like 200, 300 HP, I would just chase them back and forth between the same two rooms because they'd keep escaping. And it's possible I was doing something wrong. And in fact, it's very probable that I was doing something wrong. But in those cases with those high HP boos, I was just like, man, this is getting pretty annoying, like having to chase them down back and forth between the same two rooms.
Yeah.
So one last mechanic, like specific mechanic that I want to talk about is the elements that you can get. So your vacuum can not only vacuum stuff, but it can also expel stuff. At different points in the game, you will get access to a fire element, a water element, and an ice element. And so you'll be able to suck up little like spirits that embody those elements. And then you can shoot those elements out to, like, for example, if a door is on fire and you have water, you can put it out. There are ghosts that are weak to certain elements, and you have to hit them with that before you can vacuum them. And there are also some bosses, like the Boo boss, Boolossus. That's a weird word to say. Boolossus. Boolossus is weak to ice, and so that's another part of the game in which the elements become very important. But overall, I felt like the elements were kind of gimmicky. Didn't feel like they were adding too much substance to most of the game. But it did give you a new way to interact with stuff, so that at least was nice.
Yeah, you had to use it to figure out some puzzles, and I thought that was the best use for it.
Yeah, I agreed.
It's like to interact with your environment. Like there were some boos that you had to use it on, or like I keep wanting to say boos, but like ghosts. There's a difference between boos and ghosts, which is kind of weird. But yeah, no, in interacting with your environment, I found it to be really, really beneficial and really fun.
Yeah, and the game never really it was never mean to you by making you use an element that was like really far away. You know what I mean? Like you never had to backtrack through the whole mansion to get an element that you needed for something. It was always pretty accessible. So that was at least kind of them to do.
Yeah, I agree. For the most part, I feel like there are one or two instances where I was like, all right, I got to go back and get the ice.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish there was more elements. I don't know why, but I wanted lightning to maybe control like some power. I don't know.
We're watching too much Avatar, dude.
Yeah. Earthbending. But another mechanic I liked that we haven't talked too much about is the flashlight. I like how you can like just kind of flicker it on and off like a real flashlight, which is kind of interesting and fun. And then besides the maneuverability, I think it was pretty cool in that you could like turn it off and then like surprise a ghost like right in their face and be like, ah, and then you get them. And that's how you primarily get the tougher ghosts, is that you'd surprise them. So I found that extra bit of mechanic to be really cool. It wasn't just you sucking up ghosts. They added another aspect to the gameplay that was pretty important.
Yeah, using the flashlight, it's certainly critical to it, because if you flashlight a ghost from too far away, then you actually won't be able to catch them. And that's something that took me a little while to figure out. And before I figured it out, I was kind of mad, like, why isn't this working? But then I figured it out, and I was like, the game kind of tells you at some point early, like, hey, if you surprise a ghost right in their face, it'll be better. And it's good advice because it works. And I do agree, it's a fun little layer of challenge that they added to vacuuming the ghosts, which definitely would have been like way too mundane without it.
Yeah. Luigi's just going around flashing everybody.
Damn, dude.
Come on, Luigi.
Overall, I feel bad saying this because I know this game is really popular, but I didn't enjoy the gameplay all that much, to be honest with you. I found most things in the game to be a chore, especially all the backtracking and especially the like rapid stick movement mechanic to reel in the ghosts. I found that to get really tiresome. And like overall, the gameplay didn't compel me to keep playing the game. But I do think that they did some things well. It's just that maybe it wasn't for me. Maybe it wasn't what I was in the mood for these past couple of days. You know what I mean? Yeah.
For some reason, I really enjoyed it. I was like, it doesn't seem like a game I'd enjoy, right? It was very slow paced. It was very like, I don't know. It wasn't like crazy or anything. But for some reason, and I think once we get into the other sections, this will kind of come into play more. But for some reason, I didn't have too bad of a time just running around throughout the mansion, which I found to be extremely interesting, and looking at all the different characters and searching down all the booze and going to every room to see what was in every room. Somehow I found that to be okay. I did not like most of the control scheme, especially with the flashlight. And like you said, the camera was just at a bad angle. But yeah, I also do wish there were more customizations, as I said, to the control schemes. But overall, I really liked it. I loved fiddling that stick to get the ghost in your vacuum. I thought it was pretty fun. It's like fishing, but even though I don't really like fishing, I kind of like that aspect. I don't know why. It's just kind of crazy because I didn't expect this to be a game that I liked, right? And I ended up kind of enjoying it a little bit. It's not the most insane game ever, but hey,
this is the one right here. My insane game.
My insane game. It's this one right here. It's this one.
So, I think it's about time for us to talk about those scores. You want to give me your score?
Yeah, I gave it an 83. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 75. Not too great. I think, and I already said that I didn't enjoy the gameplay too much, and that I definitely rated the gameplay higher than the amount I enjoyed it. Because I do think it was smart. I think it's a smart game. I think they did stuff that games hadn't done before. And it was a launch title, so it's kind of automatically a pioneer anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the gameplay for me is like, I just didn't enjoy it that much. Like I would sit down like, oh, I have to play the game now because I have to review it for the show. You know, like it wasn't like the gameplay kept me interested.
Yeah.
And for me, that's like the opposite of, say, Donkey Kong Country, where like the act of playing the game literally, like moving the character with my fingers, is a lot of fun. And this game, I mean, it's obviously a whole different type of game, but maybe I'm learning like that's what I like, you know?
Yeah.
And these slower games like Luigi's Mansion maybe are not for me. One thing I'm thinking about when you were talking about how you enjoyed exploring the mansion, all that stuff, I wonder if that is kind of related to your love of Banjo-Kazooie and the kind of like all the fun little characters that game has and like the collect-a-thon aspect of it.
Yeah, I think it really played to that aspect. Now, I will say, and we'll get into this later, that the collectibles weren't that great as they were in Banjo-Kazooie. But yeah, overall, it was the exploration aspect, and each of the like areas that you went to was really interesting and really like kind of cool to interact with. And I think it's okay that you don't like enjoy it as much as other people, and nobody has to enjoy Luigi's Mansion. It's not for everybody. And, you know, I think it completely makes sense. And, you know, I kind of rated Donkey Kong Country, its gameplay kind of low. And I rated this one kind of a little bit higher than you'd probably expect. So it's all a matter of opinion. That's what we do here.
It's just a matter of opinion. And that's the good thing about our show. Getting the opinions out there to the people.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed your perspective. That's pretty neat. You brought a lot of things to my attention that I didn't really kind of realize. Well, I probably realized, but didn't think a whole lot of. So
yeah, I was looking forward to this because I figured that I kind of assumed that our opinions would differ, but I didn't really know what you were going to think of the gameplay in particular. I think I have a good idea what you'll think about the next few sections, but the gameplay was the one where I was like, you know, I don't know what Kevin's going to think.
Yeah, it was kind of the one that was kind of up in the air when I was going back over it. I was like, how am I going to feel about it when I'm thinking about it critically? But I'm pretty okay with my answer. Pretty confident.
Yeah, I am as well. So 75 from me, 83 from you, I believe.
Yeah.
So having said that,
let's move on to everyone's favorite section, aesthetics. Aesthetics. So we're starting out with visuals, and young Pete Boy, why don't you hit us up with some young visuals?
I would love to. Visuals, I think they're pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's it. All right. Next segment.
Visuals, I think, are pretty good. Again, launch title, definitely showing off the capabilities of the GameCube. There's a lot of fun lighting that's going on. The flashlight's the most noticeable part of that, obviously. Most of the mansion, whenever it's in like haunted mode, so to speak, you know, it'll be really dark and you won't be able to see except for whatever your flashlight is pointed at. But then whenever you clear an area of ghosts, it becomes unhaunted, and the lights come on, and you get to see all the detail that they put pretty lovingly, it looks like, into this game. I mean, the environments look really detailed. All the rooms are different. They're all like distinct rooms. Like, you know, you have the kitchen, you have the bedroom, you have the parlor room with all the music instruments, you have like the cold storage in the basement. Like, you know, they all are very distinct.
Mm-hmm.
and that certainly helps you to. It helps fuel the exploration, like you were talking about. Like I kept finding myself saying, okay, what rooms haven't I been in yet? Like I'm trying to think in my head, what rooms would a mansion have? And then I'd go into the cold storage, it's like, oh shit, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
here's a new room for me to look at. So between that variety and the lighting effects, there's definitely a lot of like what was, I'm sure, eye candy at the time going on, like stuff that was visually impressive.
Yeah. Did you find yourself to that point? Did you find yourself like every room that you went to that had like cloth? Did you like rip all of them off? Because I did that in every single room.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, because you would uncover like mirrors and you would uncover tables and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny. They had cloth physics, and I was reading online, and somebody was like super hyped that they had cloth physics.
Cloth physics.
It's like, oh, you could pull the cloth into the vacuum.
I was pretty impressed when because you can do that in the very first room in the foyer.
Yeah.
To reveal that mirror, which also then teaches you about the mirror teleporting thing. So that was a pretty cool little double whammy of mechanics right there. But yeah,
two quick
certainly
ones.
2 quick ones.
But back to the visuals. One critique that I have is that the mansion from the outside looks awful. Like if you're like coming up to it, like when there's that little cutscene that Luigi's like coming up to the mansion, it's like it looks like a 2D texture. I don't know if it's like the angle that it's in, but it kind of looks awful.
Yeah, not the strongest way to show off your groundbreaking game for this new system.
Yeah, and I get that it's supposed to be a haunted mansion, but you could have made it like aesthetically cool. And I don't know. I think in the next game it's like very obviously 3D. But I do like all the 3D modeling that once you get inside the mansion, they really show off the console's new capability with all their graphics on the GameCube, which was heavily praised. Yeah, I thought it was pretty like all of the extra bit of work they put into the intricacies of every bit of that mansion really made you feel like,
like you were there.
It really gave the game its feel.
Yeah. I think the aesthetics in general are like the defining factor of this game. One critique that I did have, and I forgave this critique more when I learned that this was a launch title, but I found that in the cutscenes, the animations of Luigi himself, like all of his expressions and emotions, they look really stiff, I feel.
Yeah, to that point, I actually wrote down into my notes. Some of the character modeling was a bit off and didn't look quite right. There's like Bowser, Toad, and Professor Egad, and even Luigi. Like, they all look pretty okay, but there's just something about, I think it was their faces. And I think there was something like maybe they just weren't good at doing faces yet, but they just weren't quite right. They were just kind of misshapen, especially like the non-Boo ghosts. I felt like their faces were really weird, and they ended up changing them completely in the next game.
It's interesting that you say that, because for me, I really enjoyed the way that the portrait ghosts all looked. I really thought that their characters were like, they were all interesting. They were all, again, very distinct from one another. Each of them was like, this one's the buff bodybuilder, and this one's like the old granny. They're very distinct, and they're caricatures basically, which was cool. So the models themselves didn't bother me. I think what bothered me was the animation, like for not for the ghosts, really. I think they were fine, but for me it was like Luigi's animations in the cutscenes, and like Professor Egad's animations, and Bowser's animations in the final fight. All that stuff, like it looked like they moved too slow.
Yeah,
like Luigi would look around in fear, and he would be like turning his head really slowly to the left, and then really slow. And it's like it looks really uncanny valley. Like,
yeah,
it looks like it's supposed to be real, but it's really not.
I watched this YouTube video of the game, and they did it in like high resolution graphics, and it was kind of stuttering. But someone in the comments put, if you speed this up by 2 times, this is what the game would look like at 60 frames. And so I did that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this game looks a million times better at 60 frames per second.
Speaking of frame rate,
ooh,
everyone's favorite topic. So one thing that was kind of interesting is that the gameplay and almost all of the cutscenes are at 30 or 30-ish, I noticed.
Yeah.
But then some of they're not really cutscenes, but like when you go to unlock a door, or when you try to open a door but it's locked, It's kind of funny they reuse the same cutscene for those like throughout the whole mansion, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
But those to me look like they're at a higher frame rate than the rest of the game. I'm pretty sure that they are, which is pretty weird.
Yeah.
I would expect that like the gameplay would be 60 and then the cutscenes would be 30 because that's kind of what the tradition has been for games like this or from this time period.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a pre-rendered video.
Yeah, that they somehow showed at like 60 FPS.
Yeah.
And frame rate usually is not something I care too much about. I don't know if we've talked about this on the show, but you and I have talked about this off the air for sure. But for me, it's really weird to see a Mario game on the GameCube in like 30 frames per second. I get that it probably has to do with the launch title and maybe they didn't know how to optimize everything as well as they could for games like Melee. And also there's a bunch of lighting physics going on, or lighting effects going on. So I'm sure that it took up a lot of processing power. But like to me, 30 FPS looks cinematic because it's closer to like the 24, 25 FPS of like most movies. Mm-hmm. So to see a Mario game, like such a cartoony game that like is supposed to be campy and goofy in that like theatric looking 30 FPS, it's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. The game, it does feel kind of slow and look slow, which is a weird thing to say. I agree with you there. I think there were some times where it's like, okay, like, you know, like the running animations, like, and I know they intentionally made Luigi slow, but he does like kind of trot fast. But in those like cutscene moments, everybody kind of like moves slowly, and that's probably because like technology back then. I mean, this game was out in like 2001.
Yeah.
So it might have just been like the capabilities back then. You know, obviously being a new console, things like that. So I think you're right.
Yeah, but because of that reason, for it being the technology at the time and their first foray into it, really. I can't fault it too much for things like that are more of a technical nature. But as we say, we do try to bring in a modern perspective as well when we're doing these reviews. So for anyone who's playing the game for the first time like us, it's probably going to be kind of jarring.
Yeah. There are a lot of animations in the mansion itself that were pretty cool. Overall, every like character's animation wasn't crazy. I did like the animations of sucking them up. I think that was pretty cool. Other than that, I think, you know, that's really all I have to say about visuals. Kind of more than I expected us to say, but
yeah. Well, you know, I always bring the heat in the visuals.
Yeah,
that fire. Would you rate those young visuals?
85.
Whoa.
What?
I also gave it an 85.
Yo, when's the last time we got the same score on something? Probably not that long ago, but
it was in Chopper Tech.
Yeah, literally last episode. Cool. That's pretty cool. We are on the same opinion of this. And I kind of felt that when we were talking about it. So,
yeah,
that's cool. Well, moving on to the audio. I'll take us off here. I'm going to start by saying I freaking love the audio in this game, man. This game is like, I didn't expect it to love the audio so much going into it. But man, do I. I love the main theme. I love the soundtrack. There's a lot of like super catchy like tracks that they have. And I think a lot of them, like Chris would like do his stereotypical whip and nay, like the mini one that he does where he like puts out his little arm and he just like does a fist and then puts his two fingers down. It's really funny. But the soundtrack's amazing. You know, you guys know that I love sounds. Sounds are amazing in the game. Just like Luigi's like humming as he's just walking through the mansion. Like,
the voice acting in general is super good. Like,
yeah.
Props to the main man, Charles Martinet. He really knocked it out of the park with this one. Like, the humming from Luigi, especially when he's doing the scary humming, or the scaredy cat humming, rather. Yeah. And he's like, like, you know, he has this little, like... yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's really good.
Yeah. I got it down, man.
Yeah. But that's just so funny. And then whenever you've cleared an area and it's all bright and cheerful, he'll start whistling instead, which is fun. Yeah.
Oh, we're missing the one thing where you can press the A button and you go, Mario!
Mama Mario! And there's like 10 different Marios.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that, man. And then it's like pitter-pattering of his feet.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
I have something to say that I think is going to blow your mind.
What?
Well, first I need to give it the context. Your mind will be blown shortly.
Okay.
So on the note of the music, I totally agree. The theme is catchy as hell. I think that audio is like one of the areas where the game definitely shines, as you said. One really cool way that they treat the music is by having really just the one main theme throughout the whole game, really. But they vary it up in the menus, and like the Game Boy Horror makes like a sort of chiptune version of the main theme.
Yeah.
And then in the main game itself, the theme will play like with all of its instrumentation when you're in certain like parts of it, like in the main hallway when it's still in spooky mode, or in the back courtyard. Like it'll play the whole theme with all these different instruments. But then when you go into a different area, maybe Luigi will just start humming it in a scaredy cat fashion, by himself. And then if you go into a bright area, then it'll start doing the happy whistling instead of the scaredy cat humming.
Yeah.
So really, it's like it's cool that they vary it so much with the location.
Yeah.
That's certainly like really dynamic and brings a whole lot of life into what otherwise would have been really annoying if it's just the same music loop the whole time. But the part that's going to blow your mind, that's exactly what Grant Kirkhope does in Banjo-Kazooie.
Whoa, you're right. Like, I mean, I knew that, but at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, that's probably why I like it so much.
Not only that, but I think that the actual theme itself, from a musical composition standpoint, I think it sounds like something that Grant Kirkhope could have written.
Yeah.
Like, I can picture the song being in Banjo-Kazooie, no problem.
Yeah, I kind of agree. That is kind of mind-blowing. Wow. And yeah, and I think this game has a lot of banjo elements, so maybe you're right in that that's kind of the reason why I might like this game.
Yeah.
This
game is just Banjo-Kazooie, man.
Yeah, pretty much at a slower pace. But yeah, I was going to say, to one of those points that you mentioned, there is a lot of audio cues in the game for when something happens, and I think that really kind of works for this game.
Yeah.
Especially being in a haunted mansion where you're like, okay, a ghost just appeared, or there's a ghost in this room. Like, the ghosts also hum along with you if they're in the room. Like,
yeah, that's true.
So, and then like when you spot them or they hit you or they're getting sucked up, they all make different kinds of noises. And there's a lot of different audio cues for different situations. So I think that's really cool, especially since they probably didn't have, well, I know for a fact they didn't have a lot of that in 64, like as much audio capability as they did at the GameCube. They were able to increase that exponentially, and I think they really took advantage of that and kind of drove it home.
I agree. My favorite sound effect aspect is how every single type of ghost and every single portrait ghost has unique sound effects. Like I don't think any of the main ghosts ever have repeated sound effects. Like the old grandma has a different sound effect from the bodybuilder, who has a different sound effect from the pianist, and it goes on. And there's like 30 or so of them?
Yeah.
Something like that, and they all have their own unique sound effects. And then even the little like regular enemy ghosts, I love all their different like some of them like sound kind of female, and some of them sound kind of male, and some of them sound like more nasally kind of. Like they gave all of those ghosts different personalities, not just from the way they look, but also from the way they sound, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I love the characters in the game.
And then Professor Egad is like, again, very banjo.
Yabba yabba.
Yeah.
Ouija.
There's a lot of yabba yabba, I noticed.
Yeah.
I think one pretty funny thing in the game is how they have like the main dramatic but still campy, like spooky theme that plays during most of the gameplay. But then like when you talk to Professor Egad, they have the kind of like hip hop Game Boy remix.
Yeah.
And it's just fun how they like the contrast between those two is pretty cool. And it's a recurring theme too, because like in the credits you have kind of like a hip hoppy funky sort of rendition of it. And like pretty much any situation other than like actual in-game stuff is like hip hoppy, and that's kind of just silly and fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like it. All of it. Love it all. So, what did you... I think that's about time for our score.
If you could quantify your love for me right now, that'd be great.
Quantify my love for you?
Well, I meant the audio, but if you want to just like text me how much you love me in numerical terms later, that would be
okay.
Great.
Hold on, real quick. Let me text you.
All right.
But no, I'm going to quantify my love for the audio in the form of a 97.
Hot damn, dude! Holy shit!
Yeah, yeah, that's up there, man.
You're gonna be surprised and probably not pleased by this.
Oh no.
I gave mine an 85.
Peter, no! No! Don't try it.
Don't try. You were my brother, Peter. I loved you. You were supposed to praise the audio, not criticize it.
Not leave it in darkness. Anyway,
yeah. So I think I feel like I might have underrated it, but I'm gonna own the 85 for the time being. I think the reason why I might have not like I talked a big game about the audio, much like you did, but I still felt like it was a little too limited, like to the one. I mean, there were other musical motifs as well. It wasn't all just the meh, but like most of the game was, to the point where it did get like a little repetitive for me. And another thing is that it got really annoying after a while running through, like when I was backtracking through the mansion and the same like ceiling ghosts would come down and they'd be like, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm just trying to get from one room to like, stop it. You just chill for 1 fucking second. And like, so here's the thing. This is kind of stupid, but I was playing the game wearing headphones, which I don't often do, but it's actually really cool for this game because the audio cues would be to the left or right, when necessary, which is pretty neat. But the thing is, like with the setup I have, I couldn't control the volume on my headphones, just because of the way that I have it connected to the game output. And so like when it got to the point to where nothing new was happening, I was like backtracking a bunch. Every time I passed those stupid ceiling ghosts, I would like take off my headphones and just prop them like around my neck so I could still hear what was going on, but it wouldn't be like in my ear.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yeah, I kind of forgot about the ceiling ghosts. But
how could you, man? You're too rose tinted by all the other stuff you enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the audio was really good, but maybe I just would have been happy with a little more variety and a few moments where they could have made it less obnoxious, I will say.
Yeah. That's why I gave it a 97, not 100.
Yeah.
But I still think it's like super strong, super solid, amazing soundtrack. I mean, it's not like I could get down to some Luigi's Mansion soundtrack, let me tell you, especially some remixes that are out there. Ugh, love that ish.
I don't know if I love it that much, hence my lower score, but I'm still a fan of it. Just not head over heels enamored like your boy Kevin over here. And that's fine.
Yeah. Well, time to move on to maybe some other people's favorite segment, content.
Take your cones, take your tents, give them all to me.
Put it together to make one amazing segment. Also, Peter's like bread and butter.
I'm all about the content. And for that reason, I will start with the content, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Cool. So, according to my new favorite website, howlongtobeat.com, I believe it said that a casual or a leisurely run through would be like 8 hours and a speedy one would be 6 hours. I'm going to split the difference and say it took me about 7 hours to beat the game. And I didn't collect everything. As I said, the gameplay didn't like compel me to keep playing, so I was kind of ready to be done with the game, which feels awful to say, but I mean, it's just really the way that I felt. Like, not gonna front on you guys here. But still a short game. It's actually, I was reading about this. It was criticized for its short length when it came out. That was one recurring complaint. But I don't think it needs to be any longer. Like you have your mission of finding all the stuff in the mansion. The mansion is like realistically big, it doesn't need to be any bigger or smaller than it is. And I think there's like certainly enough stuff for you to collect that you can do all of it and then be satisfied and then play the game again if you want to. Like the game encourages you to replay by giving you a ranking at the end of it.
Yeah.
And you can get that higher ranking by finding more stuff and getting more money. That's actually something we forgot to talk about. Like you can collect dollar bills and pearls and gold coins from like treasure chests or from random stuff that you vacuum. So the game does want you to do that thoroughly on subsequent playthroughs. But yeah, I don't really understand what the criticism was about back in the day over the short length, because I think the length is fine.
Yeah. I think the criticism is that, or at least at the time, probably would have been, okay, if it was like one of the early releases for the GameCube, it's like, oh, we don't have a lot of time to spend on this. About 8 hours and we're done, It's like, okay, well, we don't have many games to choose from right now, so what are we supposed to do with this game? So I could kind of see it, but it does kind of, like you said, encourage replayability a bit. It does have a counter that keeps track how many times you beat a game on a certain save file. And also, as you mentioned, you can get a ranking at the end, which determines what kind of house Luigi gets at the end of the game. And so there's like different portraits of the mansion that Luigi's in every rank. There is, I think, an S rank. I think it's in the 3DS, the new 3DS version that just came out, which we haven't talked about. But it's like a super duper mansion, and like I think there's like an extra area probably, and that's why there's a S rank. But in the GameCube, I think there's just like an A rank and a B rank, which I got a B rank, which I was pretty surprised by. But I was like, oh yeah, cool. I guess I did play the game as thoroughly as I could. But I was kind of disappointed. And Peter, I told you about this already, but I was pretty disappointed that I collected all the booze, and the only thing I got was a gem that just gave me more money. So essentially everything that you collect is just about getting more money to get a bigger mansion at the end.
What kind of message is this game sending to our youth, Kevin? Money is not all that matters in the world.
Yeah, it's about, life is more than money. It's about collecting booze, like, stealing them from their home, and trapping them and imprisoning them. That's what life's all about. That's what it should be about. That's what Luigi's Mansion should be telling the kids.
I do see your point, though. Because I was kind of getting tired of the game towards the end of it, I did Google, do you get anything cool? Like, I was thinking there might be an alternate ending or something if you get all the booze, because I got 45 out of the 50. So I was wondering, am I really missing out? And then I read, well, if you get all the booze, you get a gold diamond or something that gives you a bunch of money, and then you get a better mansion at the end, and that's it. I was like, oh, cool. So I don't have to... I was like, I hope I don't have to 100% this, and then turns out I totally didn't, and I was like, sweet. I can move on with my life.
Yeah, it wasn't like the greatest achievement, but I actually read, once again, on some YouTube comments that it was harder to get the lowest rank H, than it was to get the highest rank A, which is kind of funny. Rank H is just a single tint.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. And they're like, wah, 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 and they're like, better luck next time, but you beat the game. So it's kind of like, what? Funny because on the speed runs, you beat the game. Like, I was watching the speed runs and I saw there was a OOB, like out of bounds. It was like, oh, this will be fun to watch. And basically to do everything right up until the baby battle, the Chauncey, whatever his ghost name is.
Yeah.
And they clip through the wall after beating that one, and they go straight to King Boo and beat the game in 8 minutes.
Damn, son. Speaking of King Boo, I actually was kind of disappointed that the fortune teller ghost will reveal that Bowser is in the game, before you actually get to him. Because basically, when you get to the end, spoiler alert for anybody out there, when you get to King Boo, he attacks you. He's the final boss, and he attacks you by basically transforming himself into Bowser, or taking over a puppet form of Bowser, kind of. And to me, that was really cool because there's no hint of anything related to Bowser, no Koopas, no Goombas, none of that stuff. It's all just the ghosts and the boos. And I guess the boos are kind of you associate them with Bowser, but not nearly as much as you do any of the other enemies. So if I hadn't been told by the fortune teller ghost that Bowser was in the game, I would have been totally knocked off my feet. Whoa, this is really cool. Bowser is, because he's huge and he's fighting on the roof, and there's a big, cool, edgy 2000s fire background going on the whole thing. It's whoa. And the impact of it, I think, was definitely taken away by the fortune teller telling you, oh, I'm seeing visions of Bowser, which itself is cool. But then when you get to the real thing, it's oh, I kind of knew this was coming.
Yeah, she serves literally no purpose. She tells you a bunch of stuff you already know by the time you get her the stuff that she needs. And then she tells you Bowser's in the game, and you're like, okay, well, that would have been just a nice surprise.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you're right. When they tell you, it is kind of disappointing. You're like, oh, okay. You kind of wonder yourself, what's Bowser doing here? But at the same time, it's just kind of okay. And then you don't see him for the longest time because you think you're going to encounter him. I thought I was going to encounter him on the roof, which technically you do, but before that King Boo battle.
Yeah.
But no, you wait all up until the King Boo battle, and yeah, it's just King Boo in a Bowser suit. You don't even battle King Boo, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think the idea is really cool. It's just the teasing of it is what kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I think the battle itself, definitely epic. Definitely has a...
Yeah, for sure. It was fun.
Epic soundtrack, epic visuals. I don't think it's the hardest battle, actually. I think that Boolossus was the hardest battle of the game, in my opinion. Speaking of boos, I loved how the boos had personality in this game.
Yeah.
Like every single boo, when you run into them, they have some sort of punny name. Like,
Yeah.
shoot, of course I can't think of one on the spot. Bluregard was one. Bluregard was a boo that had like some snotty, like, just some like snotty upper class personality. He's like, oh, my name is Bluregard. They don't have voice acting, but you could totally tell that that's what the boo is supposed to sound like. And then there's just a bunch of them that had all these funny names, and it was like, oh, I don't want to capture them. I want to like hang out with them because they seem like cool guys, except for the whole
like cool guys
trapping my brother thing.
Yeah.
And then all the portrait ghosts also have their own backstories. They're very short backstories, like 3 sentences, 2 sentences. And you can see that after you capture them. But the fact that they did that at all was pretty cool because they certainly didn't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed the boos as well. I thought that the boos.
I enjoyed the boos as well.
The boos in this game was amazing.
Big selection, big variety of boos.
Yeah. There was a kind of a vibe that I got from this game, and I want you to tell me if you got this vibe. And it was a vibe that I don't know that everybody picked up on, and I know this is a stigma that Mario creates in other games, but in this game I felt it, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm playing from Luigi's perspective, but I feel like Mario's kind of a dick. I feel like so Mario came to the mansion because he had heard that Luigi won a mansion. And so this guy decides, well, I can't let Luigi have all the fame. And he wants to beat Luigi to the mansion and kind of, what I'm assuming is take it for himself or impersonate himself as Luigi. And yeah, that's how I took it. That's what I think his motive is. But funny for him, he gets locked in a painting and Luigi has to save him. So
I think you're high. I didn't get that at all.
You didn't get that at all?
Well, no, because from what I understood, like they were just meeting at the mansion to check it out, and like Mario happened to get there first because Luigi was like walking slower, took a different path or something.
No,
I
think he had heard through the grapevine that Luigi had won.
I mean, maybe, but that doesn't mean he got there with malintent.
I don't know.
I think you're grasping at straws here.
I'm not grasping anything. Mario is evil.
We're gonna have a poll on Twitter, Yeasty Boy style.
Yeah.
Is Mario a dick in, well, arguably in the whole franchise, but especially in Luigi's Mansion? I think you're wrong.
Let us know in the polls.
I'm gonna die on this hill, but I mean, like, I could see the argument for Mario being like selfish or whatever, maybe in general. Although I still don't think so. I haven't played new Mario games, so I'm not up to the current lore as it stands. But I don't think Mario's a dick. Not even in this game. Anyway, moving on from is Mario a dick? The question of the century. Actually, speaking of the brothers, that's actually a better segue than I was expecting. It's pretty interesting that they both have written dialogue in this game. Do you notice that? Like Luigi he wouldn't talk to other characters, but he would talk to himself when he was scanning stuff. Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh, I'm scared. Oh, it's just a chair. Like little dialogue would appear when he was scanning stuff. And then I think Mario just said one line. I think he said like, get me out of here when you first see him in the painting.
Yeah.
But still, like, that's dialogue that they have that I'm not sure, like, how often do Mario and Luigi like explicitly say anything? Like, not very much, I don't think.
Instead of wahoo, yippee.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
thank you so much for playing my game.
I love that. That's my favorite. Thank you so much for playing my game.
Select your player.
Select map.
Select map. So maybe Mario Kart.
Hot pickle.
Hot pickle.
But like actual dialogue though, that's like a full sentence. You don't really hear them say that.
You're right. I get what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Definitely interesting.
Well, cool.
Oh, also one last note for me. Apparently when you beat the game, you have an option to return to the regular mansion or you can go to the hidden mansion. But I was doing some Googling and I can't tell if there's a difference between the hidden mansion and the regular mansion.
Oh, okay. So that's what it is. So the hidden mansion, well, I don't know anything about the hidden mansion itself. So when I said earlier the 3DS version, you could get extra points to unlock S tier. It did say to get S tier, you have to have Hidden Mansion, or you have to do the Hidden Mansion mode, which I didn't see, so I assumed it was a 3DS thing. But I guess it's not, since you say that. And so apparently in the Hidden Mansion, there's like extra stuff you can get, and that's what allows you to get like the souped up mansion.
See, my understanding is that in the GameCube version, in any mode whatsoever, the A ranking is the highest. Like, there's no S ranking in the GameCube version, period. To my understanding. I could be wrong, but this is kind of nitpicking. I'm not sure. Either way, I don't think the Hidden Mansion adds too much of the content, which is kind of like our main goal here is to talk about the content. So
yeah,
we might not know the particulars, but in this case, I don't really think that matters too much. But fact checkers out there, it's been a while since we asked our fact checkers for help. But if you're out there listening to the show, tell us your facts. We will gladly hear them.
Yeah.
That's all my specific comments. Did you have any more that you want to add?
Nope. Let's get to the ranking.
All right. I will go first. I gave content a 75.
Wow, you ranked it higher than me. I gave it a 73.
Damn, so much higher. Oof.
Yeah. Pretty.
Really feeling those 2 points.
Oh, got me. Yep. So, to give a recap, I gave the gameplay an 83, the visuals an 85, the audio a 97, which rounds my aesthetics to 91, and then content I gave a 73. All this to say, my overall score, drumroll, is an 82.33.
I'm not too far behind on my overall score, actually, despite some disparities in individual scores. So my recap is gameplay at a 75. Visuals and audio are both at an 85, which means so is my aesthetics.
Yeah.
Kept it easy. Content, I gave a 75. So my overall rating is a 78.3, which is just about 5 points below your score. And our overall IG score is an 80.3.
And where does that place it?
It places it in 14th place out of 15. It's just above. Well, it's not just above. It's significantly above Chopper Attack.
Yeah.
Let's not get carried away here. But it is 2 points exactly below Anthony Hawk's Professional Skateboarder for the Nintendo 64.
That actually kind of pains me, because I feel like, in my opinion, it's better than that game, but I don't. You know what? Maybe not. Maybe not.
You're crazy.
I did rate it higher, maybe. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look.
Let's see. You did rate this game 0.9. Oh, no, sorry. I got it backwards. You rate this game 1.1 points above Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Okay.
Overall.
Yes, just slightly. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I ranked it 5 points exactly below Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. But anyway, one thing. So we were doing number crunching off air, as we do now, and we noticed that this is actually the first GameCube game we've ever reviewed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I love the GameCube. I would consider it one of my favorite systems, so I'm pretty shocked, to be honest, that we haven't done one yet. But fitting enough, it is a launch title, so we're launching our GameCube roster with a launch title, so go us.
Yeah, and kind of fun fact, this was like an extra episode we kind of threw in for you guys because of Halloween. So we're actually going to be doing 11 episodes this season. And so it's kind of crazy that we just threw the GameCube one in and we didn't already have a GameCube game planned.
Yeah.
So it's by fate that we rated this game.
You've met with a wonderful fate, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the funny thing about this episode is originally we were going to play an actual scary game, and we were going to do so with one of our fans who wanted to be a guest on the show with us. Unfortunately, that ended up not working out, although I think this particular fan will be a good person to have on the show at a later date. Mm-hmm. We might discuss that with him if you're listening. We got you, homie. Maybe. But yeah, so Kevin and I are both kind of scaredy cats when it comes to like actually scary games and movies and stuff like that. So fun fact, this is a little bonus story for you guys. We were going to try Slender, the original video game that came out in 2012. My computer is a load of baloney and sorely needs replacement, but I couldn't really run Slender at like a good frame rate or anything at all. I was struggling really hard. But even then I was still like scared because I was expecting like jump scares for the 5 or 10 minutes I was trying to play the game. I was like, oh, I don't want to actually like play this.
Yeah.
It's like, good thing my computer conveniently can't handle it because it gives me a great excuse.
Oh, yeah, I was a little bit, not to say that I was relieved, but
Oh, I was.
I was, I'm a scaredy cat. But I think that's why this particular guest, who will probably be on a later date, wanted us to do it because he wanted to see the look on our faces. Or my face.
Yeah. I did find a YouTube playthrough, though. So I got to see a little bit of Slender. But anyway, now you guys know the terrifying true tale behind this extra episode of the Interstate Gamers. You know, we're all about giving you that content. We do have a lot of great games lined up for you guys to close out. Well, not close out. We're still like in the middle of the season. Eventually, we will close out the season, and it will be good because we will have had a bunch of great games under our belt for season 2. We've got some cool things in the works for you guys. So as always, stay tuned to our social media, which is Kevin's area of expertise. Kevin, what are our social media?
On Twitter, we are @IG_cast. Our website is theigcast.com. All of our rankings are displayed in a very neat format on games.theigcast.com. You can find us on pretty much any podcasting place. I even put us on SoundCloud for a little bit, like a couple of episodes, just so like if somebody happened upon it, they could find us. But they limit the amount of stuff you could put on there, so it wasn't really successful. But anyway, Facebook, we're also on Facebook. I think that's just, you can find us at The Interstate Gamers. You can email us at theinterstategamers@gmail. So yeah, you can find us anywhere. Just look hard enough.
You don't even have to look very hard. We are we do have the top like 5 or 6 results on Google now, I'm pretty sure. So go us. Yeah, guys, if you want to get in touch with us about anything at all, for example, Kevin posed a question earlier on Twitter today about, it was a question that what actually happened was Kev asked if people had questions they wanted us to answer, and then Chris, our good buddy, very helpfully chimed in. And I think that's a fun thing to do. I think that's something that we could have a lot of fun with on subsequent episodes. So Twitter, or you can email us if you want at theinterstategamers@gmail.com. But if you're on that modern tip, if you're on that 21st century shit, you're probably going to go on Twitter. So definitely find us there. Fellow podcasters who we greatly enjoy include these 2 boys who have been very faithfully putting our ad in their shows recently. And I really want to return the favor, but they just won't sit down and record a damn teaser for me. Actually,
wait a minute. They do have...
Breaking news?
They do. This is breaking news. This just in. The Yeasty Boys have an ad, and we are going to play it right now for you. Plays ad.
Shit.
Plays ad.
Wait, do they really have an ad?
Yeah, Aaron was supposed to text you about it, but they have an ad they're going to send you. So the ad's playing right now.
Editor's note. We haven't received the ad.
Wow, that was a great ad. I gotta tell you.
That was a great ad that I will hear when I edit this episode.
Yes.
The future past.
Yeah. Oh, man. I think it's time to go, Pete.
All right. Well, I did want to shout out the Secret Levels podcast before we go.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're cool guys, and we have some things in common, and you'll definitely hear more from us regarding them at some point in the future. And yeah, Yeasty Boys, as always, I hope you enjoyed that ad that I'm sure is really great that I just played for you in the future past. Yeah, I think that's it. I think this episode got off the rails a little bit at the end here, but
yeah,
here we are.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Love you too.
Love you too. Oh my gosh, I wrote that down too.
Did you really?
Yeah, it says love you too, guys, in big and bold.
I know you, man. We were meant to do this podcast together.
I know. All right, well, that's it for us.
That's it for me.